Hello there everyone, it is TIJ and welcome to Football Manager 2019 Team Guide, and today it is the turn of Arsenal, who have had quite the turbulent summer, I suppose you could say, with Arsene Wenger leaving after 22 years in charge. Was it 23? It was over 20 anyway. It was a long time at the club, paving the way for Unai Emery, who's coming from Paris Saint-Germain and has actually made quite a few changes. You know, the likes of Liechtenstein has been a free transfer, but he's also brought in Guendouzi, Torreira, and a few more players that have definitely bolstered the squad and are young prospects that can definitely improve in the future. So in today's team guide, I'm going to be going through the Arsenal squad, the incoming transfers, the dynamics of the squad, training, the tactics and transfers that you should possibly make in the future. So let's get straight into it, shall we? As you can see, a good squad Arsenal have got. There's a few rooms for improvement in different places, but if we look at the front two, Lacazette and Aubameyang are definitely the vocal points of the squad. Lacazette and Aubameyang, of course, recruited from elsewhere, Lyon and Dortmund respectively in the last few years. And it's definitely the right move for Arsenal. I mean, the only striker they really had was Giroud, and Giroud's now gone to Chelsea, but Aubameyang came in for Giroud, and even though Giroud's a good player, I'm sure Aubameyang will turn out a lot better in the long run, and because they're 27 and 29, they're already at the heart of their career, the peak of their careers, so I think that's a very good move for Arsenal. Mesut Ozil, of course, a player who can very much be, he can be good or he can be bad, and that's the simple bit about Ozil. He hasn't got the best work rate, in fact. I didn't think he got the best work rate, but he's got some fantastic stats. Just look at the likes of his composure, vision, first touch and technique, as well as his passing, but he just doesn't seem to be the player that's so consistent. If you can get him consistent on your side, that'd be brilliant. But I do remember, did I say on Football Manager 2018 with Arsenal, and Mesut Ozil just never performed. But in terms of the coach summary of Ozil, he looks very good. He's got 4-star potential ability. Obviously, he's got 4-star current because he's pretty much reached the peak of his ability at the age of 29 now. But still, a very, very good player. Let's have a look at the players that Arsenal have bought in there. So they bought Socrates in from Dortmund for a fee of $14.5 million. Really just a defender who's come in just to bolster the defence a little bit. Koscielny and Mustafi are going to be the players that play most, I'm guessing, but Socrates is very much going to be that third defender. And Monreal apparently can also play as a centre-back. So there's plenty of depth in that centre-back position, and they're all of a decent age, so no worries there. They've also brought in two midfielders, Lucas Torreira and Guendouzi from Lorient and Sampdoria, respectively. Torreira coming in for $26.5 million. Now, quite a risk to spend this money on a 22-year-old, but looking at his history, he's got solid playing time in the Serie A, which is a very competitive league, and apparently he's already a good player for most Premier League sides, and has got the potential to move up to that 4-star ability. Torreira is a very natural and versatile player in the midfield. He can play as a deep-line playmaker, as a defensive midfielder, but also in the midfield as a deep-line playmaker, really any other position other than a roaming playmaker with relative ease. They've also brought in Batio Guendouzi, which is quite an interesting one, a player I've never heard of, but he's come in quite a risk from Arsenal, from Ligue 2, from Lorient. So £7 million, it's not really that much of a risk, I suppose, if you look at it. It's only £7 million. From what I've seen from him in real life so far, he looks like a very good player and a very good buy from Arsenal. And pretty much a bargain. And he's got plenty of room to improve. If you're looking at Arsenal as a long-term save, Guendouzi could be a player that's with you for 15 years because his potential ability is a star player, basically. And if he fulfills that potential, well, he's going to be the midfielder for Arsenal coming through and through. Because if you look at some of these players, the likes of Ramsey might leave the club in real life shortly because his contract runs out. We've got Xhaka, we have El Neni, but we've got a few midfielders, but none of them are real secure in the squad. So if you can get Guendouzi playing regularly without an injury perhaps, then his potential could really shine quicker than you expect, I suppose. The other player that they've bought in is Bernd Leno, which is a brilliant signing, I think, for Arsenal. I actually recommended him on last year's team guide for Arsenal, and it seems that Unai Emery has listened, of course, to me. And they bought him in for $22.5 million from Leverkusen, really, I guess, as a long-term replacement for Petr Cech. But I'll say that he's 26 years old. He's got plenty of years of regular football from 2012 onwards for Leverkusen in the Bundesliga. And hopefully that carries on for Arsenal. I think Bernd Leno is definitely going to be the top goalkeeper for Arsenal, even though in real life it seems that Petr Cech's being played, which is a bit bizarre, but Bernd Leno I think is the player that's going to be with you for the future. Now, a quick look at dynamics before we continue. We always look at dynamics. If we look at the hierarchy, there are 3 team leaders. There's always a real pattern, to be honest. There's always 2 players that have been at the club for a long time and 1 player that hasn't been at the club for such a long time. But with Arsenal, we don't quite have that. Koscielny, Cech and Mesut Ozil have all been at the club for a long time. But just bear in mind that Koscielny is 32 now, and Petr Cech, as we just talked about with Bernd Leno, is going to be replaced fairly shortly by Leno, and he's 36 years old. So it's going to be a tricky transition period as Koscielny and Cech leave the team, and possibly Aaron Ramsey also leaves the team. So you've got 3 of your 4 team leaders slash highly influential players leaving the team shortly, which is quite a scary one. But if you look at the likes of Guendouzi, perhaps he could be someone in the future that comes up and is a team leader. But in the short term, you are going to really struggle. But you've got the likes of Ozil who's approaching the peak of his career, and really, you should be looking for at least 2 team leaders. So potentially Ozil and Ramsey if Ramsey doesn't go, but that can be anyone. You know, the dynamics can change very quickly depending on who you play and what your spin is put on Arsenal. And speaking of spin that's put on Arsenal, let's have a look at the tactic I've picked for Arsenal. I'm aware this isn't the best tactic, but the best I think I could do with the players available. Now, it's a 4-4-2 diamond narrow on a direct counter-attack, which is completely different to what I've played before and suggested in different team guides, purely because of the fact I wanted to get both Lacazette and Aubameyang in strike, well, up front, which is a harder task than you think, and also get Mesut Ozil in that squad. So we've got a narrow diamond, which I think works quite well. We've got Leno in goal with Bellerin, Mustafi, Koscielny and Kolasinac at the back. That's really your strongest back four. Lichtsteiner could obviously come in as a rotational figure, as well as Socrates and Monreal at the back. But you're looking at primarily that 4 that I've just mentioned as the best 4 to play in defence. As well as the midfield, we've got Torreira as a defensive midfielder. As I said, I think he's the only defensive midfielder who's natural in the squad, who can play fully as a deep line playmaker. So you can definitely utilise Torreira as a defensive midfielder, just a bit of a backup for the defence. We've got Guendouzi and Ramsey in the midfield, but again, I think that Guendouzi could possibly be replaced by Xhaka, Elneny. There's plenty of depth in this midfield, and of course we've just gone over the attackers in the squad. One thing that you might look at is that Mkhitaryan's out of the squad, but where do you fit Mkhitaryan? Because Mkhitaryan and Ozil play the same position, and they're natural both for centre attacking midfielders. You can't have 2 centre attacking midfielders, although you could play Mkhitaryan as a right winger, as a left winger, but that then means that you've got to get rid of one of these strikers. And okay, Lacazette can play on the right, but it's not great. And I don't think Aubameyang can play that either. Can he play on the left? I don't think they can. No, they're not really too proficient, to be honest, in any way other than up front. And the problem is you've got to get both of these players into the squad, or else they're just a waste of time. You know, Arsenal have invested so much in these 2 players, and hopefully you can get them working in conjunction to do so well. So all I suggest is that I suppose you get Mkhitaryan and Ozil to battle it out, and whoever plays best gets the spot. Simple as. And I think, can Mkhitaryan play centre mid? No, he can't. That's the problem, really. And Ozil can't play there either. And Ozil's not very good on the wings either. So you've got players that are very good in one position, but perhaps that depth and strength and versatility isn't there, especially for the attacking players. But of course, you've got Danny Welbeck, who can also be utilised. He's really one of the only versatile players up front. He can play, you know, decently on the right wing. I think he can play better on the left wing, actually. Yeah, he's a natural on the left wing, and he can also play up front. So a decently natural level. He's not completely natural, but he's more versatile than any of the other players. So that's a bit more encouraging. But you've got a bit of a struggle on your hands. Whether you want to externally recruit, I don't particularly know. But we'll have a look at that in just a minute. But before we get into that, we're going to have a quick look at training. Now, I haven't looked at training myself. I've only just got the game, so I've left it to the assistant. But what I've noticed in my Liverpool side, which I'm doing on the channel at the moment, it's called Conquering the Euro. Completely recommend you go and check that out. Is that work rate is massive when it comes to training. If we look at mental ability, work rate, so the likes of Kolasinac, Lichtsteiner, Mustafi and Ramsey, you should be expecting these players that are probably above 15 in work rate to come out on top in training. But the likes of Lacazette and Ozil, who are actually 2 very pivotal players to your squad, you might have to look out for them in training, and if they're not doing very well, you can just criticise them in training. And actually, I've done that to a few players so far in my Liverpool side who haven't been working quite well, and they've said, yeah, fair enough, I need to put my ideas up, and actually, they've responded to that really, really well. So that's something to take into account in the new training feature. But a few transfers that I'm going to recommend for Arsenal, a few future transfers that you could make. There's a very healthy transfer budget there of 68.7 million. Let's have a look who we have put on the shortlist. We've put 5 players on the shortlist, and the first one I'm going to focus on is Christian Pulisic. Now, he's the youngest player on this shortlist, and whether he fits into the formation or not that we're playing here is debatable, but he's more versatile than any of the other players you've got. He can play on the right wing, he can play on the left wing. He's very young, so this is the cheapest you're going to be able to pick him up for. Tottenham are also interested in him, and he's had a few years at Dortmund, plenty of time to get used to the Bundesliga. And I think now would probably be the right time for him to move to the Premier League. Potentially maybe give him a year, but I'm just worried about the fact that he's got 2 years left on his contract, and Dortmund might extend his contract, which makes signing him near on impossible. But that's definitely one that you could go to sign. We've also got Alberto Moreno, which is an interesting one. I'm not a big fan of Moreno, but I was looking at a few websites this morning, a few of the football gossip websites, and apparently Arsenal are actually in for Alberto Moreno, a player that Unai Emery has actually worked with before at Sevilla. But in terms of your management, Moreno is certainly useful, because if you look at the left-back position, if we go on to the team report, I think Kolasinac is really your only good left-back. We've got Kolasinac, we've got Monreal, who is 32, so going to be leaving the club fairly shortly. But Kolasinac isn't even a natural left-back, which is interesting. Oh, no, he is, sorry. He's pretty much a natural left-back. But you possibly might want Moreno in there for a little bit more depth, as it says. There's not really much overall depth in the club. So Moreno's someone that you might be able to get on the cheap. You might even be able to get him for free. And it's certainly someone I might recommend to go and sign for Arsenal. Now, the next one is from Manchester United. I've recommended this player for a few team guides. And that's because his contract runs out at the end of the season. It seems in real life that he's unhappy at Manchester United. That is Anthony Martial. And Martial, I think, given the tools, could be a very good player. Very similar to Welbeck, in fact. He's quite natural as a left winger and as an attacker. He's natural in both positions, but can also sort of play on the right, but he's really a left winger and an attacker. He's very similar, I would say, to Welbeck. Let's see if we can compare the two. Welbeck, where is he? There we go, there's Welbeck. But Welbeck, at the moment, is possibly a little bit better than Martial, but bear in mind that Welbeck is 5 years older. And that actually Martial will improve over time. His mental ability is much better. His aerial ability is better. And I'm guessing that his attacking stats and speed stats, and possibly vision and speed, vision and technical ability should possibly overtake Welbeck in time. But Martial's still got a lot of time to develop. And he's possibly one that you could get on the cheap at the end of the season, if Manchester United don't extend his contract. Two more players then to look at. We've firstly got Malcolm, who is at Barcelona. Now, he joined Barcelona this summer, but apparently, in real life, he's quite unhappy there. He hasn't played once for the club. And Arsenal and Tottenham in real life are very much in for him. His minimum free release clause is 113 million, but when does that run out? That might run out at some point in the near future. You don't quite know with FM, but possibly that could be one for the future. Say if Malcolm doesn't start playing very well, or doesn't make many appearances, then that transfer fee might go down a lot, because he might be unhappy at the club, and if he's not playing, then he's bound to want to leave the club, despite playing for the mighty Barcelona. And the final one is Youri Tielemans, who plays for Monaco. He's only valued unbelievably still at £9.5 million. Tielemans, probably a wonder kid of a few years gone by, I accept that, but he's 21 years old now, he's matured a little bit, and possibly now is the time to bring Youri Tielemans into the Premier League. He can sort of play as an attacking midfielder, but really his forte is on the right of a two-man pairing. And really a replacement, I would say, for Aaron Ramsey in the long run, because it looks like Aaron Ramsey will leave the club because his contract runs out at the end of the season. It seems he wants to leave the club. Whether that's reflected in the game, I'm not quite sure. But I do feel like in the future, I do envisage this Guendouzi and Tielemans partnership that could possibly be played for Arsenal. So that's one that could be signed. And I guess the transfer fee shouldn't be that low. Let's see what they want for him. Probably be a lot of money now, and that's exactly right. But bear in mind, this is just the start of the game. So, possibly by January, by August next year, if the player... I mean, every save's different on Football Manager, but if the player stops playing very well, if he's not playing, for a number of reasons, his transfer fee could be a lot lower than expected. So, he might be one to sign. But that's it, folks, for today's team guide. I hope you've got a lot out of it in terms of the squad, transfers, dynamics, training, and tactics. And I've tried to be as helpful as I can, and I appreciate if you guys can leave any comments or feedback. And if you've got any tips yourself for an Arsenal save, leave it down in the comments, because it's all a community here, and all of you have clicked on this video just to look at an Arsenal team guide and look how that you can play with Arsenal on FM19. So it's clear that you all want to reach the same goal. So any players that you might recommend, make sure to leave them down in the comments. And I recommend that you guys go and watch some other videos on my channel. I've got the team guides for plenty of other clubs up on the channel already, and there's going to be plenty going up within the next few days. And also, I'm doing a Conquering the Euro series with Liverpool, which is more than enjoyable for you guys to go and watch. But I hope you guys have enjoyed. I have been TIJ, and I'll see you guys in the next video of mine, or the next video you watch, whenever that may be. Thank you for watching, folks, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.